Hebrews chapter 3. In the previous chapters, the apostle writes in reference to Jesus Christ and declares that Jesus is greater than any of the angels that God had ever created. That Jesus Christ is greater and has been declared the Son and has been given special privileges higher and greater than any angelic host or any spiritual host. As he continues writing, he moves to the next reference that Jesus is greater than even Moses. Moses was very revered as a holy prophet and was considered high in the rank and scales of God. Now the writer states and will show that Jesus was even greater than even Moses himself and is not to be equated with Moses in any way as a prophet or just as a prophet, but that Jesus is higher than Moses in rank. He says, "Wherefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Jesus Christ." And he's stating that Jesus is the apostle, the one who started our profession or continues and has built it up. And he's also the high priest, the one, as he established in the last chapter, the one that stands between us and God as a speaker on our behalf, who was faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moses was faithful in all his house. So he's stating that Jesus was very faithful. Even as God appointed him, Jesus was faithful, and Moses was also faithful. For this man, which is Jesus, was counted worthy of more glory than Moses, insomuch that he who has built the house has more honor than the house. So the one who builds your home, is considered one of great significance than the house itself. The house is the product of the builder. For every house is built by some man, but he that builds all things is God. So a house is built, but the one who provides for the building of the house is God. God provides the wood. He provides all things. So everything that is used to build the house is given by God. And Moses verily was faithful in all his house, as a servant, for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken hereafter. But Christ as a son over his own house, whose house we are, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end. So, just as God gives all things, and Moses was very faithful in the house, he was a servant of the house. But Christ wasn't a servant of God's house. He was a son. So imagine if you have a home. Who is greater? The one, your landscaper who works around your home, or the actual one who owns the home or is a child in the home? And he's stating here that Jesus Christ was the son over God's house. So the son, a child, is greater than any servant of that house. Wherefore, as the Holy Ghost has said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness. When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore, I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do not always err, they always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swore in my wrath, they will not enter my rest. And he gives an example that just as those who were in the wilderness, who were walking, and they left Egypt and they walked the wilderness for 40 years, they tested God in doubts. They didn't listen to God. They hardened their hearts. And because of that, because of their unbelief, because of their heart, God swore that they were not going to enter into rest. So the same warning is given to us. And he says, do not harden your heart. Do not be like those who are in the wilderness. Look at the examples I'm giving you. I'm giving you the examples of that Jesus Christ is greater than the angels. Jesus Christ is greater than Moses. Do not harden your heart in this matter. Take heed, brethren, lest there be any of you with an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. So we are told to not allow sin to take over, not to allow unbelief, but we are to examine everything that is being said and spoken today, and to understand that who Jesus the Son of God is, and how great he is, and how much greater he is than all things. A lot of people want to make Jesus part like an angel, or they want to make him like some spiritual being. Or some people want to make him a prophet, that Jesus was just a prophet, just like Moses and Abraham and all them. But here, it's very clear that Jesus was greater and more than just a prophet. He was more than just an angel. He was more than just something that just was there. But he was great. And he says, do not let sin and doubt creep into your heart. For we are made partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. While it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, they did provoke. But not all that came out of Egypt by Moses. But with whom was he grieved for 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom swore he that they should not enter his rest, but to them that believed not? So we see they could not enter in because of unbelief. This is a very, very stern warning that God is bringing us into a place where we also must continue in the faith. We must also keep our eyes on Jesus Christ. That just as Moses pulled us out of sin, and Christ, or just as Moses pulled the Israelites out of Egypt, and Christ pulled us Christians out of sin, we are looking for the greater thing, the greatest thing that we will receive and become partakers of Christ, the great inheritance. So we also must continue and should not doubt. Because if we doubt, we find ourselves in a problem. We find ourselves not entering into God's rest, into the rest that he has for us because of unbelief. So the warning here is do not have doubt and continue being faithful.